Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the game news of the industry, and of course, stream for fun. Today we're going over gaming news consolidated this week for March 2nd through the 8th. The whole idea with this is that this is a podcast once a week, bringing you the majority of the news from that week in one place, instead of watching a whole bunch of little other videos. And it also works on scooping out a lot of the speculation too. I really just want to present the news. Speculation is for other channels. I will mention some sometimes, okay, if there's actually a lot of buzz about it or there's actually some merit to the concerns. But generally I'll watch videos, go over articles, and then put it all right here in one place for you. So this week, we're going to be talking about the Minecraft 2 trailer. We're going to go over an update with Monster Hunter Wilds and how that's doing. We're going to go over a particular studio where there are over 30 voice actors are not playing nice with AI stuff, which I think is wonderful. Also, we're going to talk about the AMD launch a little bit. We're also going to talk about Balatro. We have a new game from Bloober Team that's partnered with Konami. We're also going to talk, too, about the Split Fiction. No spoilers. And we're going to talk, too, about some layoffs, too, and there's some other stuff in there, too. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in. You can always like, sub, all that jazz. And, too, if you enjoy the content, please do share, because we do more than just gaming news here. There's playthroughs, there's beta reviews. I mean, whatever I can basically get my hands on. You can look through the playlist to see what's on the channel. So, let's go ahead and get started. Minecraft Trailer 2 came out. I took time to take a look at it, but boy, does it just... It's definitely not for me. Just looks like a jumbled mess. I grew up even before Minecraft was a thing and been through a lot of the different iterations, and it's at a point now where my life's busy enough I can't even keep up with it the last, several years. But yeah, the movie is just... I don't know, it just feels forced and out of place. I really didn't enjoy the first trailer. The second one, in my opinion, kind of looks worse. And I will actually review it in theaters on April 4th, so you can stay tuned for that. I do also have a playlist of game adaptions that I talk about for ones that I'm actually able to see. So there's more moments in this trailer that are like the lore or like some game mechanics, like being able to jump into a bucket of water without getting injured, or the pilgrims or the wingsuits. We also get to see a lot more of the nether and other creatures and stuff. So it's catering to the fan fantasy a lot for the trailer, right? But like, there's still really no idea what's going on. Like, we still don't really have much of a story. There's some assumptions you can make about what's going on in the story. Maybe they get teleported and they're trying to find a way out, or maybe they need to like save the world from the piglins. I don't know. It's it's kind of up in the air. And then too, we just get more jokes that aren't really that funny, that I think fall really flat just generally for everybody, because they're kind of roughly the same quality that we got to see in the first trailer. I'm Steve. It's like, okay. And then, too, we have some big names in this that really, again, kind of like Borderlands in a way, don't really propel the movie forward. Okay, they're just big names getting a big paycheck, like Kevin Hart or Cate Blanchett or, again, Jack Black, in Borderlands. But, again, the movie really wasn't that good. The writing's got to be well. It's got to flow good. And again, there were some good scenes, but again, I'm just kind of expecting Minecraft. But hey, if I'm wrong, I'll let you guys know. I will be reviewing the movie next month. Actually, a little bit less than a month. That's crazy. It's coming up quick. It does seem, too, that it's not made for those really that started with Minecraft in the beginning, or kind of like midway. Because again, I probably got over 1,500 hours in Minecraft just alone. A lot of that was across multiple platforms as well. But yeah, it's really not made, I think, for us, but it also doesn't seem to be made for the younger audiences, because again, they don't know what they want. I've heard from some that kids see it, that they're actually catering to, and again, they don't like the fact that it's live animation, that it's live action. Okay, it all should have been an animation to begin with, or a cartoon or something like that. That would have gone over a lot better. Also, all of these older or younger audiences, they don't know really who these people are, like Jason Momoa or Jack Black, maybe, or maybe some of the others. So again, it just does not seem to really hit very well. But again, we'll review it on April 4th. It'll be coming out shortly after that, my review for it. And yeah, I'm going to see it so you guys don't have to. Also up, PlayStation is having some more layoffs. The Visual Arts Group, we don't exactly know how many, but they did get hit with layoffs this week. Also, PlayStation Malaysia, they're having roughly 30 employees also laid off. These are generally support studios, and with roughly a dozen cancellations of live service games now, there's just less to actually work on. Because there's been a ton, which is pretty insane over the last few years. So, like Twisted Metal, and we had a God of War, and they've even pushed back some other projects too, like Marathon Fair Games and Project Gummy Bears. Which, again, those three, we haven't heard anything about. And if we don't hear much about those three games at all, I kind of wonder if those three live service games will be canceled as well. Because, yeah, they've had so many games that just haven't gone anywhere. One game they did actually launch, which was Concord, and that totally flopped. And they shut down the studio, too. So, yeah, as we've said before in the year, like, layoffs are not done. They seem to be kind of trimming less fat, generally speaking. A whole bunch of the layoffs happened in 24, but hopefully we don't get as many layoffs in 25, but I still think we will have them actually through 26. Because you got to think about the development cycle. I mean, we're taking even a small game, a short game, 3 years to develop with a team of like 50 to 100 people. And then when we start working to AAA, where there's hundreds of people or even almost 1,000 people working on the game, not even including contractors and all of that jazz, we're then looking at a game that's going to be over 5 years in development. So, a lot of the games currently being started now, they're going to be launch games or like year after games for the next gen consoles, really, or even the next series of graphics card, like the Series 60. So, which is going to be pretty interesting. So yeah, a lot of the games too, with live service being a big thing and following the trend, there's still studios that are sticking with their live service, that are still working on it, that are still trying to push those out the door. And it's not just Sony, it's pretty much across all of the publishers. And yeah, again, we're going to be seeing more games coming out in 26, I believe, that aren't really going to hit that great. And even some other games, too, that we just really haven't heard anything about. And that also is kind of scary. I think of Arc Raiders. Again, we haven't heard about that game in like really 2 years. And they also changed the formula to be more of an extraction shooter, which in my opinion was the wrong idea. I want more like Helldivers, right? I want that kind of more style. Okay, I don't want to have to fight other players. I just want to work with other players, and I think that's becoming more popular. Split Fiction has done really well. Helldivers has done really well. A lot of people go back and play the older stuff, the older co-ops, like Call of Duty campaign missions, and like Lion and I are going through Halo right now for a playthrough, and all sorts of stuff. Like there's a ton of games out there that people really enjoy, and I think as the as the age of gamers generally goes up, as we age, we just want something that's more co-op-y instead of having to fight, because we're just not that young anymore. I'll be honest. I'm going to be 35, and yeah, we're just not that young anymore to keep up, to have also the time to push and to work through all the grindiness that live service is. And yeah, it's just kind of been a mess. But, in turn, when people don't play these live service games, when they're not investing in them, then yeah, stuff gets canceled, stuff gets removed, and some of the studios close, and others have layoffs. So yeah, it's kind of brutal all around. Let's talk about AMD. So yeah, I am not necessarily the channel to watch on PC stuff, but I still cover it because it still does relate to gaming. But AMD has launched their 9070, their 9070s, excuse me. We have a 9070 and also a 9070 RX, I believe. And this will be 550 and also 590 respectively. NVIDIA has had some honestly high prices with low inventory. This is also spiking the additional pricing on top of that. People are complaining that a graphics card that should be like $800 is now like $1,500. Like some people are really experiencing that pinch in Europe right now. Which honestly, that's pretty brutal. I mean, it's like, who has $1,500 to spend? And I understand there's not a lot of inventory, but it's like, guys, you don't have to upgrade right now. Also, too, with all of the issues that the 50 series has been having, like a lack of ROMs or like so much focus on all of this AI type of software stuff instead of actually being beefier and better, or better, like the 5080 or 5090. That's been kind of frustrating too, and it's pushed more people toward the 40 series again, which is also making that go up. And so I know people can't like necessarily switch companies for graphics cards, like they'd have to change their motherboard too and all of this stuff. If I'm incorrect about that, go ahead and let me know. But like, if you're thinking of building a PC at this point, it might be worth just going with AMD. Because so far people have had an easier time buying AMD cards for the last several years. Again, because NVIDIA has just been the leader. But good grief, if we're talking like 100% increase on the value of the card, that's ridiculous. It's like it takes a whole extra 100% just to, just to be able to get to just purchasing a card. And it's not even top of the line. I mean, the 5090s, I think they were selling upwards of like $4,000, $5,000. They're supposed to be $1,999. That's crazy. And again, we have this artificial push in price because, again, there wasn't a massive amount of inventory. Did NVIDIA plan to delay so that they could have more inventory at launch to help out their consumer base? No. They just launched it, and again, like nobody could literally find anything anywhere. Even stores and retailers are saying, yeah, we're only getting like 1, maybe 3 cards to service, hundreds of thousands of people. I mean, it's just crazy. Yeah. So, I mean, 50 series is going to be really brutal to try to find for a long time. And if people can't have the top of the line, then people will basically go with what they can afford and with what's available. And that's going to be a lot of 40 series. And it means even some people might go with like the 30 series cards, the beefier end. But again, with some of the games that are coming out even this year, like Metal Gear Solid Delta, the remake to 3, the 3080 is going to be like minimum for like the full graphical specs on the game. So, yeah, if graphics are important, man, maybe switch to AMD in the future, or maybe make that switch when you're able. Because NVIDIA, I mean, they know the game that they're playing. There are stuff, of course, that they could do to make things easier for their consumer base, but boy, they're just not doing that. And while AMD is having a wonderful value to performance ratio, my word, NVIDIA just seems to be getting worse because we also have a lack and missing ROPs with a lot of these graphics cards. And they're coming out like weeks later, hey, these ROPs are actually an issue. And then they didn't even include the 5080. It was just supposed to be the 5090, but the 5080 has some issues too. So I'm going to link down some videos down below from Gamers Nexus. And they do a wonderful job digging into and reviewing these cards. So if you're interested, go ahead and watch those. And subscribe to them as well. They've been wonderful for information. Let's talk about Apex Legends. So they're kind of in some hot water, and I kind of wonder if maybe this also has something to do, too, with just the fact that people aren't playing their game as much, because they have said that, we're going to focus less on Apex. We still will have some patches and some updates to the game, but it's not like really a big main focus anymore. They're going to focus on other projects, again, to get money through the door, because as we got to see with EA's earnings call, basically all of their live service games, Madden, FC, you name it, everything is just kind of going down the toilet, and they're losing that revenue. And that kind of shocked investors and retail buyers of their stock. And so, yeah, it fell like 25%. That's pretty freaking insane. So, of course, it's come up since then. But, yeah, Apex Legends is also having another issue with over 30 voice actors refusing to sign over their voices to basically AI programming to mimic their voice, which I applaud them. Absolutely. They're trying to keep, stay relevant, keep their job and even future jobs, because it's not just going to be people coming in, with them. It's also going to be people coming in after they're finished with their career or they get pushed out. There's going to be other people in the industry, but yeah, basically you can sign your voice away now. This is like what James Earl Jones did, or Jim Earl Jones. Oh, man. He just passed away last year. Forgive me. Jim or James. I forget exactly. I think I've heard both. But anyway, Jones basically signed his voice over to Disney. They have AI'd his voice now. And so whenever you hear it in future projects of Star Wars, that's not going to be Jones's voice. That's going to be an AI replica of his voice, which is going to sound pretty good. The AI can do a pretty good job, but this is ultimately what these voice actors do not want is they want to actually maintain relevancy so they can finish their career. And it's not just for them either. We need to remember that ultimately, like, we need to focus on people having that job, having that ability, that passion that they can put in with their voice, because AI cannot replicate that. There's some scenes in some movies, whether it's Chappie or iRobot or whatever, or Ex Machina. The idea is, can a robot create art? Can AI create art? They can create the imitation, but art itself is something that robotics and AI does not have, and I don't think they will ever have that. I think they'll get better at replication, but to actually create independently, they can't do that. Even quote the best AI that we have today. Okay, they still have to pull from somewhere. They still have to create from somewhere, from something, and they can't just imagine. So, again, to have just strict AI voices with the games that I've heard it in so far, the voice itself sounds pretty good, but sometimes the voice inflections are in the wrong spot. Sometimes there's other issues too, and it can be a frustrating thing when you lose another aspect of the passion in gaming, because we already feel like we've been losing a lot of that. On the other side of this coin, though, I also think that ultimately it's inevitable. And I hate to say this, and I've been saying this since last year, but it's like, how do you get the companies to stop? Well, you also got to vote for paying for yourself and do some research. Does the game have AI art in it? Well, stop playing the game then. Does the game have AI voices? Don't buy the game. Right? So are you willing to give up GTA 6? Are you willing to give up Call of Duty and Diablo? And you willing to give up, various PlayStation games? And all of these big studios, they're basically saying, look, we're going to have workers, but they're also going to be working with AI tools. So if you want to think about it, humans will be the source code, and then AI are going to continue to build and branch outside of that. And then that is the version that we're going to be playing. See, we're going to be having somewhat imitated versions of human passion and excellence and quality in video games. And it's going to be marred by AI. And I do think, too, to a point, we won't even be able to tell. There's some crazy pictures online already where, you can't even really tell unless you run it through another AI program to recognize AI pictures. You can't even tell really that it's a AI picture. It's crazy. It's getting out of this world. So I ultimately do appreciate that they're standing up for their job. They're standing up for what they believe in. And AI, again, isn't perfect, but it is going to improve. It eventually will be a futile thing to fight. It's the same with like car manufacturers, and people were striking because they didn't want robotic arms in their factories because they were going to be replaced, right? Well, it happened anyway. It's the same too with like telephone services and switchboards. They were like, technology just moves forward, and some of the jobs disappear, and you need to be able to change and adapt with the times. And the faster technology is, the faster you need to be able to adapt. And I just saw, this is crazy, folks. I just saw something online where I forget the company, but they have synthetic muscle strands on a robot that has AI to learn how to walk and move. And they actually hang them up from the ceiling first, so to speak, and they let them kind of learn how to move. And once they get to a certain point, then they actually let them down on the ground and then practice and continue to learn how to walk effectively and lift stuff and all of that stuff. So again, it takes a long time. It's going to take a long time to actually get this robot to do kind of, physical labor tasks. But eventually it'll be able to do it quicker, faster, more efficiently, without breaks. I mean, and then how do you compete against that? It's the same with Amazon having their forklift drivers, where they have several warehouses now that are just all of the forklift drivers are no longer human. They are just straight programs and robots running everything on the floor out there. Again, what do you do? This is the way that companies are going, and every time you ask for a wage increase, every time you ask for better wage benefits, understanding that you are telling the company that you are going to be more expensive. And when we get close enough to people being expensive over the cost of starting with robotics and AI, well, some of those companies are starting to choose the latter. So, again, I'm not against anyone wanting to actually have good work ethic and get paid for it. But again, how do you then compete against robotics and programming that's getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper ultimately every year? I mean, think of what we have for free right now with DeepSeek. Or with some of the other programs, like we all used to make fun of chat bots, and now we use them all the time, including people that have jobs that, do writing or do art or whatever. Again, it's just the idea of AI. Like, it's not going anywhere. We can make fun of it as long as we want, but it's here to stay. And hey, I'll be right there with you when Skynet happens, and I got all of my armor-piercing bullets for, I'm ready to go. But yeah, it's going to be a mess. It's going to be a mess from here on out for a lot of jobs. And we even have like Flippy the arm that's being used and even bought and purchased with some of the fast food joints, like McDonald's. It's like you don't have a cook anymore. You have an arm that kind of is able to reach around the kitchen and able to flip burgers and able to like move fries and, able to keep track of stuff and never needs a break, doesn't get sick. It can break down and stuff. So there'll be, of course, human mechanics for that. But like, we really kind of got to think about this, because if you're in your teens or your early 20s and you're thinking career retirement, in like 40 years, 50 years, what's it going to look like in 50 years? I think Skynet, but yeah, I mean, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Balatro's appeal. So the founder, actually, that made Balatro has already sold, last we heard, 4 million copies, which is really good. But he actually made an appeal to PEGI, the rating system over in the UK, to basically lower the rating, because he gave examples of EA and 2K and other publishers where they have online gambling mechanics, basically, for people as young as 3, which is crazy. Again, they make them fun. They don't have any real violence in them. There's no blood. There's no guts anywhere. Like nothing's graphic, right? But again, they're using the same tricks of the trade, like gambling does, to keep you gambling and get you addicted and get that stuff moving through your brain like dopamine and endorphins, so that you feel good while you're doing it. And that's called addiction. So, yeah, this is kind of crazy. But yeah, the creator did end up winning his appeal, but now it's plus 12. It went from plus 18 to plus 12, so it did lower some. But again, like, he's not going to be able to compete against EA or 2K. And we found out too that even EA, like, they have some people on the board for some of these rating agencies like PEGI and ESRB. And so, yeah, of course, their games are going to make it through, right? There's a corruptible aspect to that. And I, too, would even say fraudulent. But, ultimately, if people are just tired of what companies are doing, just quit buying them. And, like, that's what EA is seeing right now. With Madden, with NCAA, with Apex, with Football Club. Like, they're all losing money on that. And so they know they got to change things. And ultimately, when you withhold your money, it forces the companies to do a better job. But I, too, would also like to see fairness. So while I personally, right, maybe wouldn't want to play Balatro or let my kids play it, I'm not letting them play any of the other gotcha live service mechanics either. Because again, I don't want them to get addicted. Not that I don't want them to practice at a certain age, but right now is not the time, right? And every parent should be able to make that choice. We found out that Konami and Bloober Team, they have another project in the works. Now, we don't know what it is, but to refresh you guys' memory, Bloober Team worked on Silent Hill 2 Remake, which was really, really good for PC and also for PlayStation. Also, this year, it will be coming out on Xbox Series X and S. And there was some timed exclusivity there, so you can congratulate PlayStation for paying a little bit of extra money, maybe a lot of extra money. I don't know. Yeah, exclusivity, a lot of publishers aren't really enjoying anymore. But yeah, Bloober Team is now working on another project. And again, we don't know what it is, but Konami does have a lot of IPs, and it would be interesting to actually see what they work on and what they're actually going to pull out. So, and again, will this one also be timed exclusive? I don't know. I think if Bloober Team actually wants their game to sell well, that they're passionate about and working on, they would not want any exclusivity. But normally it comes down to the publisher, and Bloober Team doesn't have the publishing rights, of course. It's somebody else. And so in this case, yeah, Konami. And so, yeah, when we actually find out what that game is, for sure, again, we're not super big on speculation here on the channel, we'll let you guys know. Let's talk about Forza Horizon 5. We know that this is actually coming to the PlayStation now. It's coming April 29th. This game first was launched on Xbox in 2021, so pretty old. We're looking at like roughly 4 years here. But yeah, the pre-orders in the US are through the freaking roof for PlayStation. It's pretty insane. It holds the 3rd, 4th, and 12th spots so far on the PlayStation Store for pre-orders. And the 3rd spot is the Early Access Edition, which is 4 days early, and that's $100. Don't do that. Please. Do not buy Early Access, okay? You're basically buying the worst version of the game, and like we've had mess-ups like Diablo and Star Wars Outlaws, okay, and yeah, I am just not a fan of Early Access. I think it's cheap, and again, well, even too with Starfield, while it wasn't a live service game or have any multiplayer online aspects to it, it still really wasn't launched great. They still definitely needed some patches, and even with the day one patch, it's not a guarantee that it's going to fix the game anymore. Again, another example is Starfield, also Redfall. Okay, we've had some examples too with Monster Hunter Wilds, for example. Even though that was a pretty big patch, the game runs like trash just about everywhere. So it is not great. We tried to tell you guys with our beta review and our look, and I do care about the game running well because, again, I think people deserve that when they're paying, $70 for a game that's basically AAA at this point, and then it runs like that. It's just like, good gal, man. That's crazy. But yeah, the number 3 spot in the United States is the Early Access Edition, so that's a lot of money coming Microsoft's way. And PlayStation is excited about it too, because they also earn 30% and don't have any of the overhead costs for making the game. So it's a win-win. Again, I really don't understand how people can still be console warring, because everybody, when things are opened up, everybody makes more money. And I even think, I have a hunch about this, it's just speculation on my part so far, but I think Nintendo's upscaler that they're working with NVidia, I think they're also trying to get more third-party stuff into their platform for Switch 2, because, they, again, want some more of that money. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Currently in the UK for pre-orders, the premium edition is in 2nd place, so people are excited for that. And then it's first in Canada, Mexico, Brazil, Germany, France, Spain, Italy, and Portugal. So I think Xbox is going to get a lot of money from Forza Horizon 5, and I really think this is good too, because it creates now competition. Definitely for Gran Turismo 7. And in my opinion, Gran Turismo has really fallen pretty far from when I first started playing it back in PlayStation 1. And, keep following it through with the later iterations, it really hasn't done great. And then in my opinion, 7 is actually the worst, where PlayStation did their players dirty by changing everything after a month. So all the review copies came out, all the releases, all of the banter and stuff. Hey, it's a pretty good game. This is what it's like. A whole bunch of people went out and bought it, and then PlayStation had this massive update that completely changed the online service aspect of it, the store, the cost of the vehicles, taking some vehicles out of whatever and putting them behind a paywall. I mean, it was disgusting. Sony, what are you doing? That is trash. Don't do that. And now that they have actual competition with Forza Horizon 5, and I'm sure from here on out, 6, 7, 8, 9, etc., maybe they won't do that. Again, that might actually be a better experience for everybody, regardless of which one you like. Let's talk about Monster Hunter Wilds. So right now, it's actually come up a few percent. SteamDB is now 56% score instead of, I think it was 47. So it's gone up 9%, which is good. Total reviews is 133,000. 24-hour peak was still 90,000 plus players. Now, a lot of people are still playing this game, but you can definitely see the drop-off there. We'll see what happens again this weekend. PlayStation Time Tracker now shows that Monster Hunter Wilds is now number 2 in the last 7 days. A lot of hours being played, but surprisingly, not a lot of players. So what's nice about PlayStation Time Trackers, they break down the data for you. And what we're seeing is that roughly half or even a third of the normal players that normally play the live service stuff, like Roblox, like Call of Duty, like Apex, etc., or Fortnite, is that just the Monster Hunter guys, they're playing twice as long. So I think that's really interesting too. So people that bought Monster Hunter, they're playing for longer game sessions. But yeah, there's only a kind of a smaller percentage that's actually playing Monster Hunter Wilds. I'm sure it's still sold pretty well, but that's the first game that I've seen that. Usually the times played, the amount of sessions, how long those sessions are, and the amount of players, generally toward the top 10, all of those are generally the same. But yeah, Monster Hunter Wilds is an exception because, again, those players are just taking longer sessions, upwards of 3 hours, sometimes even longer than that. Again, that's just the average. It has been stated this week that the game developers, this is the best they can do right now with Monster Hunter Wilds. And this is on the RE engine, which is the Resident Evil engine. And maybe it's time for a new engine? If you can't really improve or make a good experience, and while there are some things that are nice, like the 3D map, that is really cool. They've also expanded the gear a little bit, but generally it's the same. But like the multiplayer is a total mess. Again, RE isn't really made for that kind of a multiplayer style. Maybe they could tweak or totally scrap the UI and do it over. A lot of people complaining about that. Also, too, the fact that Monster Hunter Wilds runs so poorly. Maybe Monster Hunter Wilds just needs to go to Unreal Engine or have its own engine. Again, RE engine is in-house. I understand that. They've made it for, the Resident Evil games and other games like that, but the RE engine is not really made or designed for Wilds. And again, that was something we were trying to tell you guys in a beta review, is like, man, this does not run good. It doesn't look good. The frame rates are bad, and it's really, really, really bad on PC. It's even advised to just wait or refund your money if you haven't already. So yeah, maybe they just need a new engine for Monster Hunter Wilds. I kind of think they should do that. Because how many times are people going to be willing to get burned? Again, maybe with Madden and with FC and Call of Duty, maybe it takes a really long time, but eventually people do see what's going on. The woohoo kind of dies and sloughs off, and they're not as excited anymore, and then they don't spend money. And while Monster Hunter Wild is a massive success in IP, for this time, maybe next time it won't be. Because if you burn your players today, they're going to remember tomorrow. And I think that's what Capcom needs to think about. So yeah, if they can't make a good game on the RE engine, maybe they need to make something else or use something else. We also got to see, too, on the Xbox Store that there's over 1,100 reviews so far. And it's currently a 4.4 out of 5. And it is down a little bit. The reviews have actually gone down a little bit. I think some people are starting to realize that, later into the game, there are definitely some of those worst performance issues. And that maybe Monster Hunter Wilds is, quote, kind of too easy, which, again, some people don't necessarily like that, but maybe that's partly why, too, it was so successful. Again, it's all about these companies chasing that money. And if you make it more casual, more easily accessible, people are going to come. They're going to show up, and you're going to get more money because of that. Also for PC, there's over 30 mods right now already for Monster Hunter Wilds. Some of these mods even came out before the game released, but some of these mods are honestly pretty sweet. So if you're actually using mods, I'd be curious. what's actually out there and what's available and what you guys are using. I would be curious too if some of these mods actually work on some of the performance issues. I would think at this point that would be something that would probably be number one for those that are still playing on PC, which a lot of people are. But yeah, this is. I think it also shows too that Monster Hunter Wilds, even with the game running horribly, especially on PC, there's still almost 1 million people in the last 24 hours that are still playing on Steam. That's incredible. It truly is incredible. And I think it shows, for one, that games have been so bad lately and missed expectations so much, maybe people are just ready for a game that's made for players. Not chasing a narrative, not trying to really tweak and change stuff. It's like, look, it's more Monster Hunter. Yay, it's a 10 out of 10. I think that's absolutely possible because we've had Veilguard, Starfield, Redfall, Suicide Squad. Gotham Knights was another one that just didn't quite hit like it should. And again, not all of these are horrible games, but just they did not meet expectations for the general audience. And two, this is frustrating. Overwatch 2 would be another one. I mean, we've had a lot of games that have not hit the bar. All I got to say, too, is Ubisoft. I mean, Skull and Bones, Star Wars Outlaws, Shadows has been delayed twice. Avatar, I guess, was okay or pretty good, but again, it didn't really sell enough. Yeah. I mean, this is not good when so many games are so bad, and then you get a game that runs like hot garbage, and it's absolutely praised as like a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10, when clearly it's not the best version of Monster Hunter that they've put out. So, I think that's interesting. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. So something that I grew up with, Skype, it's officially shutting down. So companies that basically use this are going to be switching over to Microsoft Teams, or at least that's one of the suggestions. But yeah, Skype is officially going to be no more. And man, used to use Skype a lot back in the day, but again, it kind of became irrelevant. I think they could have done something during COVID, of course, but instead Zoom took over, and Zoom's not in a great place either right now, actually. But yeah, Skype is officially going to be shutting down. In other news, we got to hear about Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4 remaster coming. This is going to be July 10th. It's going to be basically $50, and this is also going to be coming to Game Pass day one. So that'll be awesome for some folks. I know some folks are really excited about this. And again, in my opinion, these are actually games that should be remastered, because these are like over 10 years old. Maybe not 4, but like these are some pretty old games. And it makes sense to actually remaster those. And I don't mean just putting some 4K texture overlay, okay, like Star Wars Bounty Hunter by Aspire. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about actually putting in some work and effort, redoing the models, redoing some textures, okay? Like Tomb Raider Volume 1 and 2 Collection would be excellent examples of this. Is that they've gone a little bit more than just redoing the 4K, the textures in 4K, right? They've actually redesigned stuff. They've changed some things. They've maybe worked on some bugs if they knew of some that were there, and that's wonderful. And they also gave us all of the DLC for all of those Tomb Raider games. So that's what they should be doing. And again, with a lot of people really liked Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, and now you'll be able to get number 3 and 4. So I wonder if they're going to do 5. I saw a lot of people didn't like number 5. Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, that will be coming to Game Pass on day 1, July 10th, or $50. Ballistic Moon, we've probably seen and heard them in the news a little bit. They're kind of generally a smaller studio, and looks like they are effectively closed, according to IG. So insiders are stating that basically almost everybody is actually gone. They were the ones that did the Until Dawn remake, which was bad. Again, they totally changed a bunch of stuff. They changed the lighting. The performance was not good either in the game. And it also was a game we didn't ask for. But I think, again, it was supposed to kind of go in line with the movie that's coming out, or did come out already. I got to look again. But yeah, so they're basically done. This released on October 4th. At the end of October, they had a bunch of layoffs. Again, in December, they even had more. And yeah, now they're basically just a total shell of themselves. The founders are there and a few people, but like ultimately, there's no one in relations, there's no one in marketing, and no one in development. So even though people are putting in tickets to, for bugs and glitches and issues with the game, there's actually no one to fix these. And this looks really bad. It's like, okay, that's one thing. But, we used to see that games maybe got support for a year before they officially closed down, right? Well, we're not even getting that anymore. And so, yeah, Sony has just totally torn the guts out of Ballistic Moon. And we don't have any official comments yet from Sony or Ballistic, but I'm sure the studio will eventually be closed and shut later this year. Unless they plan on just doing a total rehiring, trying to get fresh and better talent in the door. Because let me tell you, Until Dawn Remaster, it did suck. Digital Foundry had a wonderful video. You can go watch that if you'd like. But yeah, it was brutally bad. And, but yeah, maybe they're just trying to get fresh talent in the door and reboot the studio later this year or next year. I think that would be great. But again, if this is something you do to a company, would you really want to go work for that company? I don't know. Maybe. All right, let's talk about Split Fiction. No spoilers. I promise. Not one. I will say the game is great. I will say, too, that whether it's on Series S or all the way up to PlayStation 5 Pro, you are running at stable frames. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. For, of course, Series X, PlayStation, and PlayStation Pro, you're running at a stable 60 frames. And I would say, too, that the game is not, taxing. It's a pretty simplistic game in its design, just like what we would expect from It Takes Two or A Way Out. It would be the same thing. I will say you'll probably enjoy this, too. My wife and I, we love it. We're excited to play some more. SteamDB right now shows a 94% out of 5,000 reviews. Its launch had 197,000 players on Steam, or roughly, we should say, since you have to partner with somebody, we should say 400,000 players. So, yeah, this game did really good. It did really, really good. PlayStation time, or I should say up to 400,000, because you can, friend it to someone else, and I don't know if it just includes those that actually bought the game on Steam or that have actually played the game on Steam. I think that's an interesting question. If it's just people that purchased, there's a potential that there's over 300,000 players that have actually, played this game, of course. Because, yeah, if you need to, the game is so easy to share with everybody, which is great. But if Steam's only showing 197,000, potentially there's almost 400,000 that have actually played the game on Steam, which is pretty dang good. Right now on PlayStation Time Tracker, it's number 45 at launch. I actually expect this to go up as people play and see the game. Xbox shows this as a 4.9 out of 5, which is a little high. I wouldn't say it's quite that high, but this is with roughly 200 reviews so far on the store. My only two complaints is the camera type that they use. It can be a little disorienting to keep track of your character and what you're aiming at on the screen. So both my wife and I find this a little bit challenging at times, depending on what's going on and the type of environment that we're in. And then also the fact that the shade of green that they use to highlight stuff for the second player or for one of the characters in the story is that ultimately it's just harder to see. So when you have action going on, when there's movement on the screen, when there's AoE happening and a whole bunch of lights and stuff going on, it's really easy actually to lose sight of the green highlights for your particular character while you're both playing. And The pink, really easy to see, right? It's pink, it's vibrant, it's really easy to tell no matter what's going on the screen. With the green, it's like kind of a softer green, a softer yellowish green. And what I think it should be is, it should be a vibrant green that's easier to see. So I'm hoping that they actually patch that, or that they'll change that maybe. But that is some of the complaints that my wife and I have. Those are the only two so far. And but again, like the game runs great. Even local co-op, it's perfect. It runs really, really well, even with local co-op. So it's a blast of a game. They did Hazelight did a good job designing it, making it. It's very highly polished so far. We've made it through several levels and a couple of side stories so far, but again, no spoilers. But yeah, it is fun. It is enjoyable, and you're going to have fun playing this game. So I could honestly see this game being a runner-up for Game of the Year. I'm serious. It's really, really good. We got an update with the Xbox Insider program that basically completely crashed the whole thing. So, man, Microsoft really needs to stop doing this. They need to stop releasing bugs and actually start releasing updates. So yeah, the issue was that the Insider program basically wasn't working. It had shut down a lot of features and also a lot of aspects too of the Xbox and the Insider program. And so yeah, people were kind of stuck. As far as we know, it's actually currently fixed. I haven't seen any more articles talking about this, so I assume it's over. And at least they fix it quickly, but still, it's like, that is part of the thing too with the Insider program is you can encounter some of those bugs because, again, you're basically a beta tester. But when it takes down the entire thing, that sucks and is pretty frustrating. So luckily they fixed it pretty quickly. But yeah, they need to stop releasing patches that are bugs and take down the entire thing. I remember too when Microsoft did something for like Windows servers, and it shut down like all of the airports basically like around the world because everybody uses Windows. So yeah, when you have a monopoly like that, and a lot of companies use your stuff, you got to make sure you get it right the first time. You need to like triple and quadruple check to make sure that you're not giving people trash. Because maybe, in this case, it's Xbox Insider program. But, next, it might be something related with the medical field or with commercial aircraft. And all of that is incredibly important. So, Microsoft, you need to quit doing that. One thing, too, I wanted to mention about Days Gone remaster. There's not a ton of people that were excited for this, apparently. A lot of people were having pushback and like, I would have rather had this or would have rather had that. And I'm right there with you guys. But apparently on the pre-order charts for PlayStation, it's number 10. I want that to sink in. It's number 10 right now. So that's crazy. So on the PlayStation Store, it's number 3 and 4 and 12 for Forza Horizon 5. And then Days Gone Remaster is number 10. So yeah, that's pretty impressive. That's a lot more people voting with their money than I thought there would be. Probably a lot of you too, but apparently a lot of people actually want Days Gone Remaster. Now, the thing that I think that sucks is that if you actually got the game through PlayStation Plus instead of actually playing it on your PlayStation 4 and just carrying that over with the library, you don't qualify for the $10 upgrade. You have to pay the entire $50. And I think that sucks. And then, too, the stuff that they're providing, again, while a lot of other companies do this too, I don't like it when they add some content and don't put it out as an update. Instead, they paywall the thing. And it's like, well, that's frustrating. Why do that? That's not better for the player. That's better for the company. And personally, that stuff I don't support. But hey, if you are excited about it and it's your money and you have the cash, go for it. I'm not knocking those people at all. But just me personally, I'm not a fan when they paywall update content like that. Because really the only thing that I think is that exciting, while maybe the enhanced photo mode could be kind of cool for a few, like the Horde mode, that's probably the bulk of the content right there. They also shared that last during the presentation. And again, for $10, that might actually be worth it. But having to pay a full $50 when The game is only like, 6, 7 years old. That's not very old. It still looks really good, personally, because it was basically looking pretty good on the PlayStation 4. There's also PlayStation 5 enhancements for PlayStation 4 games, and also including all of that other stuff with the Pro. So, I don't know. Is it worth $50 to you? To each their own. But to me, personally, it's not. Because I'd have to buy a PlayStation 5 to begin with. And I'm not going to be doing that anytime soon with how they treat their customers. So one last thing I did want to talk about, since we did talk about Monster Hunter Wilds, we finally got to find out why it was released so poorly. And this was kind of actually interesting. I kind of figured it's like, well, they needed to launch it or whatever. And I agree with many people. It should have been delayed. But we found out that Capcom is basically through 3/4 of their fiscal year as a company, but they've only made half of their financial goal for the year. So they're behind. And so did they really feel like they could delay another 3 months? Nope. They delayed another 3 months. That means they basically only have roughly half of their revenue goals that they had for the company for their current fiscal year. So they had to release something. There's nothing else on the horizon either. And so, yeah, they got to get something out the door to make their public traders and investors happy, since they're a publicly traded company. So that was actually really curious for me. But again, I still think it sucks. It's like, here again, we have a publisher worried about the money, worried about stock go up, instead of actually worrying about their consumer base. Because here they've taken their biggest consumer base, and it runs the crappiest PC. Like, when are these companies going to quit doing that? Again, it's when people stop giving them money. Think about it, folks. Again, are you willing to wait? Are you willing to sacrifice a little bit and play something else while waiting for a better and cheaper version of the game? It's a smart move, but do you have the discipline to do it? And if you have all the money in the world, whatevs, go buy your, $4,000 5090 graphics card. But a lot of us don't have that option, myself included. And it is a little scary at this point for $70, $80, $100 versions of the game, or $110 even. Oh my word. It's a little scary to buy those versions of the game and have them turn out like Suicide Squad, like Star Wars Outlaws, like the performance issues with Monster Hunter Wilds. It's just, it's just not good. We shouldn't have to pay top dog dollar for games that aren't ready. I want to play the best version that I can afford, right? And the best version I can afford is a performing well game that's AAA, or touts to be, maybe even quadruple A, and basically pay the least amount possible. Because then that means I get to play more games. I get to afford more, not just for me, but my family too. Or I can just buy a game and roll those dice, baby. Because it's not like us on consoles, we really get a refund. Steam you do for a couple of hours, which is nice. You get to mitigate some of that risk. I honestly wish we had that too also on console. Maybe someday we will. But paying that $70 up front, it's kind of scary. Now, for some companies, I don't worry about that yet. From Software, Haze Light, okay? Bloober Team would probably be another one at this point. Motive would be another. As long as they're working on the game by themselves, like the Dead Space remake. That was a wonderful game. I'd pay $70 for that. Well, and in fact, I think I did. I think I did pay $70. But man, when the game doesn't run well, when it's buggy, when it's not the type of style you were thinking of or wishing for, or seems less compared to previous versions, the $70 really seems to feel like a waste of money. And that's tough. It's tough to admit that. And sometimes we make bad choices in life, and that's okay. The best thing we can do is learn from them. Not just bury our heads in the sand and be like, yeah, next time it'll be better, it'll be, go team. No, companies are about money, including the IPs that you know and love. You're just another number to them. It's just about getting that cash. And unless we have companies like From Software, Motive, and Hazelight that actually care about their customer base and have shown that repeatedly, again, the rest of these companies, they're not your friends. There's a few out there that actually do care, and they want to do what's best for the consumer, and also generally too best for what's best for what the employee can get out of it as well, because we hate that crunch time. But also that doesn't mean that we just blindly spend $70 on every game that we're emotional about. We should take time to do some research, look at reviews. Okay, I'll cover what I can, but there's plenty of other channels out there too, like Lucas Stevens, Mr. Matty Plays, Young Yeah, The Angry Joe Show, Bellular News, Force Gaming. Okay, they do a great job, and they all kind of specialize in something. But yeah, they do a good job of going over their games. So I suggest subscribing to those folks. With that, folks, hopefully you guys are doing well. Don't forget, you can always like and sub to me as well if you'd like. And also, too, if you enjoyed the content, go ahead and share. Don't forget, we also have those playlists. And you can always poke around and see what we got else on the channel. And with that, folks, we'll see you guys on the next one.